In the last episode, we talked about the importance of traceability and what producers are doing to have control over what is done on their properties. Today, following the important pillar of governance, we are ending the season with the land rights indicator, from legal compliance. Hey, my name is Nathana, and today we are going to discuss how the producers ensures their right to land, compliance with the country's legislation, and avoiding collusion with any form of corruption and/or fraud. These are extensive matters that are extremely relevant to ensure a just society that can continue to grow in a responsible and prosperous way, respecting the rights of all citizens. Landing is a very important asset for human survival. It's where people make their living, and our survival depends on the way we take care of the land. Some requirements emerging to motivate this care. Under Brazilian legislation, all private land ownership must have a public registry. According to the law number 4504 of November 30, 1964, which regulates the rights and obligations concerning rural real estate, everyone is guaranteed the opportunity to access land ownership, conditioned by its social function, that is, to favor the well-being of the owners and workers who work there, as well as their families. Maintain satisfactory levels of productivity, ensure the conservation of natural resources, as well as observing the legal obligations that regulate the fair working relationships between those who own and cultivate it. Land ownership fully performs these functions. It's important that producers follow this premise to continue holding the right to the land they have legally acquired. Bear in mind that in addition to the requirements set out in the Law 4504, it's important to comply with other laws. In Brazil, in addition to the producer having to deal with the adversities of their open-air company and market fluctuations, they also need to be up to date with the payment of their tax. Here it's important to pause to mention that the Brazilian tax burden is around 33% of GDP, not being the lowest, not the highest in the world. However, we charge more tax from the poorest and less from the richest. And this perpetuates the existing unequal distribution of income and hinders our full social and economic development. This is because someone with low income and few possessions pays a lot of tax on what they earn, while someone with a high income and a lot of possessions pays relatively less on what they receive. Returning to the tax that Brazilian rural producers need to pay, we have a state tax, ICMS, levied on the sale of agricultural production, a federal income tax, ER, levied on the result or profit earned on the property, federal tax on rural land property, ETR, in addition to two federal contributions, Rural Union does, and the Rural Work Assistance Funding, FUNRURAL, intended for the retirement of rural works. FUNRURAL is mandatory for producers, legal entities and individuals. Contribution on the fund takes place through invoicing on production or on payroll. The tax is collected at the time of sale of the product. In the case of individual producers, legal entities, usually represented by large producers, must collect the tax when they buy products from other individual producers, but they also collect it when their own goods are sold. Rural producers must also pay attention to criminal legislation, which strictly punishes acts of corruption by public bodies and officials and the practice of fraudulent acts, such as bribery and extortion, either to circumvent labor, tax, or environmental legislation. Failure to comply with laws imposes much more on farms than legal sections in the civil and criminal field, directly harming their greatest assets, their image and reputation. Have you ever stopped to think that the number of developing countries exceeds that of developed countries? It's worth remembering that a significant part of the coffee in the world is produced by developing countries. And so, wouldn't it be important to reflect on how to effectively help coffee growers? Just having the right to land doesn't not guarantee the producer's survival. As we are seeing, the costs and requirements are many, and therefore only with control, knowledge, and the establishment of constructive relationships can we effectively achieve prosperous conditions for all coffee growers. In Brazil, almost 80% of coffee producers are small producers who, although they own their land, need control and support to effectively make a living for coffee growing. Keep in mind that they live off what is produced by the land, but they are also responsible for preserving the land that guarantees the survival of the planet, correct? Another factor to pay attention to related to land rights is the possibility of corruption. To improve the living conditions of the population in developing countries, governments and institutions acquire laws with developed nations or international organizations, increase the balance of foreign debt. However, there may be deviations or even lack of knowledge and control of the direction and application of this resource. And so, control mechanisms are always welcome. Producers also play an important social role by acting correctly and honestly, making the best possible investments and guarantee, among other things, that their employees have dignified lives. Producers are helping to build a better world. To ensure the continuity of food production for societies and life on Earth itself, we need to find ways to help producers make the best use of their land and safeguard it. Thanks for following along this vision. It was a pleasure to be able to show you how responsible sourcing is being applied on farms. Was it interesting to you? If so, and do you want to learn more about what producers in Brazil are doing to be responsible, then be sure to click like and subscribe. Then you will be notified when we post new content. You can also listen to the reaction podcast for today's video at the link in the description for another perspective on the topic. It's always important to experience new perspectives. We can watch videos, listen to podcasts, and take away important ideas that might not have considered in the same way before.